Joining us online is Douglas Carswell. He is the president and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy, previously a member of British Parliament for 12 years. He was also co-founder of Vote Leave, the official campaign that won the Brexit referendum. Douglas, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Hello, Ben. It's great to be back. Thank you.
So obviously, we are now seeing the effect of Joe Biden's preferred economic policy in the United States, and the effect is just pure stagflation. We're seeing 8.5% year-on-year inflation rates, the highest in 40 years. We now have negative GDP growth rates over the course of the first quarter. And meanwhile, Chuck Schumer is talking about raising taxes federally in order to tamp down inflation. It seems that the state of Mississippi, where you guys are doing a lot of hard work at the Mississippi Center for Public Policy, is taking precisely the opposite tack. And there's a reason red states are growing faster than blue ones at this point.
Yeah. Biden last year hosed an additional $2 trillion. And as we've seen from the latest stats on the economy, not only failed to produce much growth, we actually look as if America's economy is moving into a recession. We think we need a different approach. We think the way to allow growth to happen is to cut taxes. And we have spearheaded a campaign in Mississippi to achieve the largest tax cut in our state's history. We are, in effect, cutting the burden on income tax by about half. Politicians will talk about the cost of living crisis and how to put money back in folks' pockets. We think the best way to put more money in people's pockets is not to take it out of their pockets in the first place. Get rid of the state income tax. So Mississippi is now well on the way to joining 9 other states in the United States that don't have a state income tax. I can't help noticing, Ben, that a lot of them are the fastest growing states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee. And I hope we'll soon see Mississippi join that rank of fast-growing states because we are cutting taxes rather than raising them.
You know, it is really amazing how folks on the left and in the media, they refuse to acknowledge the simple fact, which is that businesses relocate where they have less burdensome regulations and taxes. I mean, my business did this. We moved from California to Tennessee. We were considering that long before, actually, the COVID pandemic and the riots broke out in LA. That was just the final straw for my family. But the attempt to move the business, we've been discussing that for years because the business climate in California made no sense. And states like Mississippi, which again, Mississippi in terms of the level of education of the population is sort of at the lower end in terms of American states. But the way that they can revitalize the economy there is by making it a business-friendly state, which brings in a lot more resources.
What we see is a tale of two Americas. They're progressive, high-tax, high-regulation states that are stagnating and hemorrhaging businesses and workers who are flocking in their droves to states like Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. It's not just your show that's moved. Look at Elon Musk. Look at those thousands, tens of thousands of businesses that don't have the high profile of a Tesla. There are huge numbers of these businesses moving. One of the wonderful things, Ben, about the American system, and I speak as an outsider, is you've got these 50 different models and experiments on how to do it. So don't take my word for it. Just look at the raw data. Is California, which today has European levels of taxation and Mexican levels of public service, is California prospering faster and growing faster than low tax or no tax Texas? We can look at the different examples of the different states, and it's clear. States where you have conservative administrations that are cutting taxes and deregulating are growing incredibly fast. Of the 10 fastest growing counties in the United States in 2020, all but one, 5 of them were in Texas, 2 of them were in Florida, 1 was in Arizona. They were almost all in conservative states. This tells us that something pretty dramatic is going on. I actually think we're seeing the center of economic gravity in America moving away from high-tax progressive states to low-tax states. And what we're trying to do in Mississippi is make sure that after decades of stagnation, we grow by adopting the low-tax Texas, Florida model.
So, Douglas, what sort of obstacles are faced by states like Mississippi in trying to do this in terms of the federal government? So the federal government obviously tries to restrict what states can do more and more under the Biden administration. We've seen that in Florida, where the Biden administration sort of takes revenge whenever it can. What sort of obstacles have been faced by the folks in Mississippi?
Well, we've got 2 big sources of the surplus. One is the budget surplus. The other is a DC money that's been handed to us. We're not allowed to use the DC money for tax cuts. We can use our own, if you like, homegrown surplus. But there, the obstacle is really politicians. Politicians, even at state level, have to be persuaded that people are better at spending money and businesses are better at spending money than they are. And that's been something that we've overcome. We've created a gravity-shifting consensus where we've made the case. And what's really surprising is actually we've managed to get some sensible Democrats on board, because they represent families that are feeling the pain too. And by cutting taxes on things like groceries and cutting taxes on things that matter to everyday people, not corporate tax breaks, not tax breaks for big businesses, but by giving regular families tax breaks on the things that matter, like groceries, we've managed to achieve, I think, a big consensus. The wonderful thing is it can be done even if there's disapproval from the federal administration. Even if the federal administration 1 year is trying to persuade you to take their handouts and attaching all kinds of conditions and strings, if you ignore that and just get on and manage the state's fiscal affairs by cutting taxes, there's a huge amount that different states can actually do, irrespective of what Biden does or doesn't want.
That's Douglas Carswell. He's president and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. Douglas, congratulations on what you're doing in Mississippi and good luck with it.
Thank you.